The following is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comey Media Incorporated.
Vikings rookie cornerback Khyree Jackson dies after a car crash. Will the team be able to honor his memory properly this upcoming season? CeeDee Lamb fires back at ex-Cowboys receiver Cole Beasley over apparent criticism. Will this melodrama help or hurt Beasley's chances of signing with a new team? The Montreal Alouettes and the Saskatchewan Roughriders remain undefeated in the CFL. Which team has a better chance to go 18-0 during regular season play? All that and more on the 45th edition of Total Football Talk. Welcome, one and all. It's that time again. Time for Total Football Talk action as the Alouettes rally to beat the Stampeders 30-26 to remain undefeated. I am one of your co-hosts, Drew Willingham, as we are here to discuss football yet again for the 45th consecutive week. We've covered the NFL, we've covered the CFL, and we've covered the UFL. And right now, we have the CFL in action. 5 weeks are in the books. We're going to recap that this week. We're going to also preview Week 6. There's a lot going on in the game of football right now. Not just the NFL, of course. It's quiet time for NFL. But for CFL and UFL during the spring, we've had a lot of action. Now, the UFL concluded a few weeks back with the UFL championship game. And we all saw how that went. When you look at the team like the Birmingham Stallions being an absolute powerhouse in the UFL. And now we look at two teams right now who are undefeated in the CFL, that being my team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and the Montreal Alouettes. These teams out there are doing what it takes to get the dubs out here in these streets. Well, out here on these fields. And here with Total Football Talk this week, we're going to recap that action and take a look at what happened in Week 5 as we take it into the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
Here with the opening drive, we're going to start this out with a game that took place on the 4th of July, Independence Day, a day that here in America we celebrate for independence. But the CFL is just another day, as it's in Canada. And they played like they were Americans out there. Well, there are Americans out there in the CFL, but I digress. But right now, when it comes to the 4th of July and the game that we had in the CFL, it was the Toronto Argonauts traveling to take on the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who returned from a bye week. On their bye week, they went into that bye week 3-0. They come back and they absolutely dominate. Well, sort of, when it comes to the score. Not necessarily game by game, because the Saskatchewan Roughriders held on with a 7-point victory over the Argonauts at home, 30-23. Now, when it comes to this, we got to take a look at the fact that Trevor Harris, the QB1, was banged up in the previous game leading into the bye week. So we had QB2 action in this game. Little lackluster. Shea Patterson, the QB2, was in 192 passing yards with a touchdown, but he did add 4 carries for 18 yards with a touchdown on the ground as well. So he contributed with 2 touchdowns to help get the victory for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. AJ Alouette, 18 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown, along with 1 reception for 6 yards. Not much with the receiving game, but he took on a good amount when it came to the running game. He has been the powerhouse when it comes to that attack, with 18 carries for 67 yards and a touchdown again on that day. Samuel Emilus, 3 receptions for 54 yards and a touchdown, along with Keon Schaefer-Baker's 4 receptions for 43 yards, round out the contributions by the receivers, along with the Rough Riders defense. 2 sacks on the day, but that's not the biggest stat here. We got to look at Roland Milligan with 2 interceptions, Deontay Williams and Marcus Sales with also interceptions as well. So 4 interceptions on the day for the Rough Riders defense, contributing to make things happen out here on that field. Now, besides that, got to look at the other side of the ball. Cameron Dukes, the quarterback for the Argonauts, who absolutely sucked on that day. Let's just be real, people. He was the one who threw 4 interceptions on that day. Absolutely disgraceful when you look at quarterback play right there. 206 passing yards Cameron Dukes had, yes, but 0 touchdowns passing and had 4 interceptions thrown on the day. Again, that is absolutely disgraceful. Yeah, he added 6 carries for 47 yards on the ground. Congratulations. You had a total of over 250 yards. We'll say 253 yards total combined between throwing in the air and on the ground. But you threw 4 interceptions. You totally sucked on that day. You gave the game away. A team in the Toronto Argonauts that we've been talking about so far this season have been doing a great job. And a great job at that, at staying in these games. And they did by only losing by 7 points. But when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions and you only lose by 7 points, it just goes to show that the problem was at the quarterback. And this is their QB1 here. This is their number 1 quarterback they have into play. So looking at this right here, looking at the contributions from Cameron Dukes, I think it's safe to say they need to find a better quarterback option if he's going to throw 4 interceptions. Or is it just that the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense is just that good? I wanted to say something else, but because we're on the radio airwaves, had to behave myself. And when it comes to that, we got to look beyond Cameron Dukes in this game right here. You know, he was the quarterback. Let's look at the running back. CeeDee Khyree didn't really add much on the ground, and he had a pretty good game the week before. He only had 11 carries for 39 yards and a touchdown in this game and had 1 reception for 10 yards. The Argonauts defense had 1 sack on the day, and besides that stat right there, they absolutely sucked when it comes to their production in this game. So between the defensive play, between their running backs, well, CeeDee Khyree, and their quarterback, Cameron Dukes, absolutely treacherous play when it comes to looking at this team, the Toronto Argonauts, a team that we had some solid hype on. But when you look at their losses to the Alouettes and now the Roughriders, it's safe to say that they're not going to be looking good by the end of the season if they don't find ways to reestablish the run, to not turn the ball over by their quarterback, and to be able to stop the other team's offense. They've had success against lackluster teams that have under 500 records at this point. But when it comes to playing against real competition, it is definitely not a solid look for this team in the Argonauts. And if you really want to break it down a little bit more, all right, let's take a little bit more of a look into this game here. When we go into halftime, the Argonauts had only put up 9 points to the Roughriders 10. Now, you're probably looking at saying, Drew, well, that's only a 1-point deficit at this point. Okay, it's 10-9. And I totally get that. I totally understand how you feel when it comes to a 10-9 deficit going into this. You're only down by a point going into the half. I mean, it's not at the end of the world right here. But when you look at beyond that, when we get to the third quarter, the Roughriders started running away with it as they put up 10 points to the Argonauts 3, outscoring them 20-12 at that point, and they didn't look back. Even though the Argonauts scored more points in the fourth quarter, it wasn't enough as they lost 20-3, recapping that first game. And as we recap this first game in the opening drive, we have to bring in my co-host who is just now able to surf in through these streams. Give it up for the EP of all EPs, my man, Kyle John.
Thank you. Oh, man. Thank you for your patience. So sorry that I'm coming in as I am. Yeah, Monday.
Mondays are the time where it just kicks us swiftly in the rear. I get it. It's all good, brother. Just glad to have you here as we have Total Football Talk action. I just brought up, we just went perfect timing. We just went through the intro. We also, brought up the first game of the week. I just went through the stat line. It's like perfect timing for you to roll through anyway, because now I got to get your take on this first game. Looking back on it, absolutely disgraceful performance by Cameron Dukes on that side with 4 interceptions on the day, handing the game over to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, my team that I get hyped about. I'm getting hyped about them for a good reason, as they are still undefeated. When you put all of that in perspective, the stat line, everything, the trajectory of how this game went through 4 quarters, what are your thoughts following this Thursday Independence Day matchup?
Well, congrats to the Rough Riders for not turning the ball over too. But of course, they had to deal with the backup being in there, and the defense basically played the next man up, and they rose up as one, and they made the Argonauts' offensive life a little bit, unfortunately, uncomfortable. And you put the quarterback down twice, you get 4 picks. The defense saved the day for the Rough Riders, and the Argonauts offense gave this game away. Although, yes, the defense didn't really perform all that great. They performed good enough. I'll put it that way. They performed good enough for the W, but they did not perform well enough to get the W. But the Rough Riders defense did. So congrats to them. 4 picks.
You would expect that out of the QB2 on the other side.
Yeah.
But not for your starting quarterback. And we've talked some decent hype on this team. Cameron Dukes has kind of played lackluster this year, but in their games that they have won, because we were just talking a couple weeks ago about how they could give the Alouettes some trouble, and the game was relatively close, but they lost. It was respectable. This game was also relatively close, but your quarterback gave it away with those 4 picks. Had he thrown half of that, only 2, you would have beat that backup quarterback on the other side of the ball.
Yeah, no question. You need to have, this is exactly what you would like for your team in the Rough Riders. That's exactly how you'd like to see it. You see that you're rolling in your backup quarterback. Your defense is saying, look, just make sure that you have plays that are on time. Make sure that the running game is good. It doesn't have to be outstanding or stellar. If it is, that's even great. That's even better. But make sure the running game is good. Make sure that you get a few first downs. Make sure that you limit the 3 and outs, and you limit turnovers. You do that, we'll take care of you. That's exactly what happened, and I'll be doggone. The Rough Riders, with a lackluster offensive performance, which is understandable for a backup, got you the W because of the 4 interceptions and the 2 sacks. Argonauts, we were actually talking about this team actually being one of those that actually might challenge for the Grey Cup, and now it looks like they have slipped on the banana peel as of late. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, they are a team that's been pretty respectable over the years, but if they have continued play out of this by their QB1, then it's definitely going to sail the other way, and they may be looking at options when it comes to an alternative quarterback, when it comes to their starter for that team. So looking at that, and now right here on our next game, Friday evening, we had the upset of the week. It's about time as we talk about the Winnipeg Blue Bombers hosting a game at home.
Wrong MFing game for the upset. Doggone it.
Right here. Yeah, I did not see it coming. I believe last week.
I didn't either.
I believe last week that were you the one that said last week that you had a feeling that they could snap this winless streak? Yeah. And and you were just saying it pretty much for the sake of debate. Okay. It wasn't like And I felt that then, and looking at it now when you said you were surprised, because even though you picked it, you weren't fully believing it, because
No.
you thought that they were going to be like the Edmonton Elks going into this upcoming bye week without a win. And
Right.
I did too. I mean, the way that their defense had played, the way that their offensive production had been, I did not see this happening, as the team goes and gets 25 points to the Redblacks 16, winning 25-16 at home over the Ottawa Redblacks. And Chris Streveler had an okay game, 127 passing yards. Didn't turn the ball over, but didn't have any passing touchdowns. But on the ground is where he had his most production, 13 carries for 79 yards and a rushing touchdown. Now, the Blue Bombers, you know, you got to look at their running backs here. 19 carries for 78 yards. I mean, that right there is a major improvement when you look at how they produced in this game right here in comparison to, we were talking about how their running attack was hurting them in the previous 4 losses that they had. You know, Brady Oliveira, and this was outside of his production, he had 23 carries for 129 yards if you take him out of those overall running backs. So him on that day, 5 receptions as well for 37 yards. He led the team in rushing and receiving on that day with the 37 rushing yards as far as individual stats. So looking at his individual production, looking at the Blue Bombers defense with 3 sacks.
They stepped up. Yep.
And an interception by Terrell Bonds, no relation to Barry or Bobby Bonds, but definitely plays in the game of football, not baseball. But, you know, he contributed with the interception. And their kicker, Sergio Castillo, 6 of 6 on field goals with a long of 53 yards on the day. When you think about that and the fact that 18 of those 25 points came from that, it's a huge, huge stat for this game. Would tip the scales, being their special teams and their production and the overall team stepping up in all 3 phases to make sure that they got the win in this game.
Right.
Drew Brown gets banged up in this game, the starter for the Ottawa Redblacks, which also, I believe, had an effect on this game, as he only had 24 passing yards, 2 carries for 12 yards on the ground, and was knocked out within the first half. Dustin Crum, the backup quarterback, comes in 102 passing yards and an interception, along with 8 carries for 55 yards. Just wasn't enough to keep the team in this game. Reichwell Armstead, though, who has been the focal point of this Ottawa Redblacks team through 5 weeks, has had 17 carries, 103 yards on the ground with a touchdown in this game, along with 1 reception for 33 yards. He was probably the highlight of the Redblacks again on this day, as Jalen Acklin had 3 receptions for 41 yards, along with Justin Hardy's 3 receptions for 43 yards. You know, it wasn't enough to really contribute on offense to help this team get over the hump. Another stat line that we have to look at is the fact that the Redblacks defense only put up 1 sack. And when you compare them to the team that we just talked about, who lost in the other game, the Argonauts, their defense absolutely sucked, Cole. So when we put all this into perspective, and we think about the stat line here, and we think about how this game went, what are your thoughts when it comes to this Friday contest between these 2 teams?
Well, we talked about the Roughriders. They had but they came in the game knowing their backup is going to be starting, and the defense basically taking the responsibility, put it on their shoulders, and say, "Look, just play error-free ball. We got you." On the fly, the Redblacks had to do that, and unfortunately, the Redblacks defense wasn't up to snuff. No turnovers and 1 sack. So. And this is understandably how the team actually rolls. They have, I've said this in weeks prior. They have trouble converting long drives. They cannot push the ball in the end zone. And I had a feeling, and I think I actually said it to Ian last week. If they're going to have issues converting and having 6 points instead of 3, then the issue won't be if the team can actually compete. But if they're going to have issues finishing our drives, they're going to have L's that they're not going to like to take. Here's the first one. And although, yes, the offense, I won't say didn't show up. The offense did as well as they could. I'll put it that way. They did as well as they could. The defense just failed them. And I do put on the defense because I think they should have stepped up a little more. And you see it on the other side with the Blue Bombers getting their first win. Congratulations, Blue Bombers, on getting your first win. Let me see if I get this math. Well, look, kudos in the defense, because that actually is a major improvement too, getting a pick and 3 sacks. So they actually had a presence in the game. And yes, Sergio, 6 field goals. Look, you're easily MVP of this game. There's not even a question. But let me see if the math is correct. So the QB rushed for almost 80 yards. The other Blue Bombers running backs rushed for almost 80. And then you had Mr. Oliveira, who gained 129 yards on the ground. So if the math serves you correct, that means the Blue Bombers gained close to 290 yards on the ground. If my math is correct.
Sounds pretty correct to me.
That is the effort I'm talking about. And if you can get that type of effort, I'm not saying that they can run for almost 300 yards every game, but if they get that type of effort on offense, you help the quarterback out. He does not have to force anything. You open the game up offensively. You let the defense relax and have them basically just pin their ears back and say, okay, we got them, because our offense is basically just tiring out the opposing defense. And when we get on, okay, all we have to do is do the 1-2 punt, and then we can get back on the field and have our offense just wear this offense down further. That is what a good running game gives you. And I'm loving the fact that I'm seeing that here. And I had a feeling that if they could just tap into their running game, I think we would see a much better performance, and I'll be doggone we have.
Yeah, it was definitely nice to see a different, transition in a game for this team right here in the Blue Bombers that doesn't end with them taking the And I know that they feel great too heading into this upcoming week when it comes to the punishment that they have taken week in and week out. And, to some people, it was a total
surprise, motherfucker.
But when it comes to how they played in this particular game, it doesn't surprise me that they came out of it with a win. And, we've been talking about it for weeks. When is this team going to break through? And it only takes one, and then they can get the ball rolling and actually turn this thing around. And I'm glad that I threw as much shade as I did, because maybe somebody, one of our, we're still small out here growing, but maybe one of these views on these shorts, somebody had shared it to one of these players and said, "Oh, expletive, no, we are not going down like this. We're not going to let somebody talk about us out here in these streams." And that's exactly the type of motivation that they needed to get this type of win.
This was a total team victory. I mean, the defense did what they were supposed to do. The offense did what they were supposed to do. And the special teams did what they were supposed to do. And this is a total team win. Every component of their team should take a bow, because they had a huge hand in this W. And it's great to see it when you can actually see it from just the stat line itself. I'm like, yes, this is a complete team victory. And for those out there who don't know what that is, when you hear coaches or players say this was a team victory, circle this game. This is what they're talking about. The offense stepped up at points, the defense stepped up at points, and the special team stepped up at points, and it took all that collective effort to get the W. Congratulations to the Blue Bombers.
Absolutely. And before we go to our next game, we got to shout out the comment section real quick. Playmakers in the house says D. Willie and Kyle Sports with the Z.
No, thank you, sir. And thank you, Playmaker, for spoiling what I was going to say for somebody getting an award this week. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
We will bring up his breaking news here shortly. But as we get to the hellos first, Ike is in the house and says, "What's up, fellas? And welcome back."
Oh, well, thank you.
Welcome back to you
Ike?
too, sir. So
Yes. What's up, Ike?
glad to have you out here in these streams. You, Playmaker, everybody else who's watching between YouTube, Twitch, X, all of you out there watching right now, thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I guess now's a better time than ever to bring up Playmaker's breaking news that he had. Oh, yeah, it's time for breaking news. And that breaking news is this. It's cornerback Cameron Sutton suspended 8 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. What are your thoughts on this one, Cole?
You would think that these players, whether they are new to the league or they're veterans in the league, you would think that they would know not to overstep, to learn, okay, so there's certain things we're supposed to do and there's other things we should not do. You would think that this would actually stick, yet we still having these issues with players. I shake my head at this. I do. I just don't understand how we can still have this still be an issue with players. And in this case, this reeks of battery. And I'm saying to myself, I get that sometimes things in life get out of control and, we're not all perfect. And I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but it's like what my father said to me when I was young. He says, yeah, there's going to be certain things and there's going to be certain people that's going to try to pull you out of character, but you got to have the wherewithal to actually say, no, this person is not, or this situation is not strong enough for me to lower myself and lower my standard to act buck wild. Yet here we are.
Yeah, he was definitely not following the 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps is what I was told when I was younger. You need to be personable, you need to be punctual, and you need to be professional. So you need to do that when it comes to you, Cameron Sutton, out here on this field, just like the rest of us have to do in our professions. If you're going to sign a contract, if you're going to give your word that you're going to do something, you need to follow through and be a real one out here in these streets and on this field there, Cameron Sutton. You got other people who depend on you to do things. When you sign a contract, when you give a word to say you're going to do something, you need to honor your word. Stick to it, Cameron Sutton. And if anybody else out there is feeling this message, you need to follow not what Cameron Sutton's doing, but the words that Cole and I are saying in this moment. Yeah. As Playmaker says, he's just doing his job, but we are too. So do that. Appreciate there, it. Cameron Sutton. Do your job. And let's all make it better out here in these streets. To our third game that we have here on the slate. We'll skip ahead to Sunday because this game right here was definitely not the game of the week, okay?
No.
This game right here was between the BC Lions, who traveled to take on the Hamilton Tiger Kitties, a team that I have dubbed that for many weeks now because of the way that they have played out here in Canadian football. And they proved me right yet again, as the BC Lions, led by arguably probably the top candidate for league MVP right now in Vernon Adams Jr.
Dude is still balling.
Absolutely. He puts up 44 points on the day, along with the Hamilton Tiger Cats' 28 points. Come on now. You got routed in this game. As Vernon Adams Jr. throws for 383 passing yards, another 300 to 350-plus yard performance for Vernon Adams Jr. 4 touchdowns on the ground. You look at what Cameron Dukes did in the previous games we were talking about, throwing 4 interceptions to 0 touchdowns. Vernon Adams Jr. threw 4 touchdowns to no interceptions. Absolutely video game is what he did this week and in the previous weeks leading up to this. He also had 3 carries on the day for 15 yards, as well as William Stanback's 14 carries for 82 yards and a touchdown, and also added 5 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. You got the 1-2 punch right here with Adams Jr. and William Stanback, because Stanback has definitely been putting up numbers over the previous weeks too and has not been a slouch. His running game has definitely been helping balance the scales for this team to be effective in the passing attack too, as he's also contributed as a receiver. And then speaking of contributing as a receiver, you look at Justin McGinnis's 10 receptions for 144 yards and 2 of those 4 touchdowns from Vernon Adams Jr., along with Alexander Hollins's 6 receptions for 116 yards and the touchdown. Between Stanback, McGinnis, and Hollins, all accounted for the 4 touchdowns thrown by Vernon Adams Jr. I would say the quad pack between Adams Jr., Stanback, McGinnis, and Hollins absolutely balled out for the offense in this game, and the reason why they put up 44 points. But we also got to look at the fact that the Lions defense, they were a little quiet, beyond the fact that they had 3 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any, turnovers recovered, but you got to look at the other side of the ball for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who have a solid quarterback on a bad team right here. Looking at Levi Mitchell.
Yeah.
374 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, that you don't have many teams that are losing like the way the Hamilton Tiger Cats are, who have a quarterback who is balling out with several 300 passing yard games at this point, and they're 0-5. Okay, or 0-4. Looking at this Hamilton Tiger Kitties team, but beyond this right here, beyond the Tiger Kitties play. Okay, my bad. They're 0-5. I misspoke. But when you look at that, the Tiger Cats running backs also had a major regression when you look at what they did the previous week, is they had 11 carries for 35 yards on the day, which is definitely going to affect, a lot of aspects of the offense, which mostly it affects the passing attack. And Bo Levi Mitchell still happened to throw for almost 400 yards on the day. So you look at that. James Butler, who had 9 receptions for 108 yards for that, for one of those 3 touchdowns thrown by Bo Levi Mitchell. And you also have Shamar Bridges with 6 receptions for 87 yards. The Tiger Cats defense had 2 sacks on the day, but besides that, they absolutely sucked again, regardless of the fact. So putting all that into perspective, thinking about this terrible Hamilton Tiger Cats team that we have watched through 5 weeks, who are 0-5 at this point, against a team in the BC Lions who have been dominating, throughout this year. And besides the fact that they have a loss, are not far away from the Alouettes and the Roughriders of the league as far as great teams of the CFL. What are your thoughts as a result of this Week 5 contest?
Man, I feel for Bo Levi Mitchell. I do. Oh, man. I mean, he if it was for him, this team would circle the drain even harder than they already are. Look, the superlatives about Vernon Adams Jr. We would probably take all 2 hours of this program to say, yes, the dude's a stud. In CFL, maybe for the exception of Cody Fajardo, I don't think we have seen a steady performer out of the quarterback position like him. And to a degree, I don't even think Fajardo could even compete and compare. He's doing outstanding. And it looks like to me what I'm seeing is I think the more complete offense is starting to show too. And when you have that happen, you can put up 44 points against a team and actually do it on the road. So it looks like the team has offensively found their stride. And when you have that happen, everybody can cook, as you see. 2 receivers with over 100 yards. The running back came close to getting 100 himself through the air. And when you have that on offense, it just makes defense comfortable. And yes, the Lions defense didn't really do all that great, although 3 sacks is good. I mean, they still allowed 28 points. So to me, that tells me the right team on the right Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday can still get them, provided if they can make the Lions offense stumble just a tad and just enough. But that offense is cooking. But unfortunately, with the Tiger Cats, you got a quarterback that's playing MVP level football with very little else's help. Even though, yeah, you do have some good receivers too on the team, you just simply need more than just a quarterback that's playing lights out. The running game has to step up, and the defense has to step up. And if neither one of those aspects step up, you might see 0-18. I'm not saying that they will go there, but you might, because you got to have those 2 components together to actually play on a level that is your quarterback.
Absolutely. And looking at how this team going into halftime, the BC Lions were routing them 34-11 going into halftime. Remember Ryan McCarthy sending that graphic in the group chat, the other day with the fact that 34-11 at halftime, we can still come back in this game. And I'm like, looking at that and how in the next half they were outscored 17-10 still. So the Hamilton Tiger Cats outscored them only 17-10, but yet I feel like they were gimme points because there was no way they were going to come back after being down 34-11. So looking at this right here, they definitely have a lot of things to work on. But like you said, there's a really good chance that they go 0-18, probably out of the teams in the league that are winless between them and the Elks. It's probably the two teams that I believe are still winless. And the Hamilton Tiger Cats are the one that have a better chance right now based on their level of production to go 0-18. And even Ike says almost 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and a loss. That's unheard of.
But when you don't have a running game to go along with that almost 400-yard and 3 touchdown performance through the air, that can happen. And unfortunately, that is what happened here. Absolutely.
And it'll be interesting to see if they can turn things around when it comes to if they can get a win. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers actually did it. We would have 3 teams right now that were winless if that wasn't the case, but they were able to turn it around. But overall, this game was it absolutely was. I mean, it was downright. But with that, we got to take this into the game of the week. And the game of the week we have set up is between the Calgary Stampeders, who traveled to Montreal to take on the Alouettes. And the Alouettes won 30-26 in this Saturday contest. Cody Fajardo continues to stay relevant with 374 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, but does throw 2 interceptions, which help keep this game close. Added 4 carries on the ground for 35 yards, along with Walter Fletcher's 5 carries for 56 yards. Not really a whole lot to get excited about, but he did put the ball in the end zone with the rushing touchdown. What he did contribute mainly for was 9 receptions for 104 yards in the air, along with Tyson Philpott's 12 receptions for 134 yards, and Kyle Speakers 4 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown.
Really?
Definitely contribute to great play by the receiving core and their running back, who contributed greatly on the receiving, but just couldn't do enough on the ground as far as overall statistics. But still, 5 carries for 56 yards isn't really too bad to get upset about. The Alouettes defense, they didn't really do much in this game except for an interception by Deontay Ruffin for the second week in a row. Again, no relation to David Ruffin of the Temptations, but he had a second consecutive week with an interception. Definitely balling out for that Alouettes defense to help get them to continuing the streak of being undefeated at 5-0. Jake Meyer on the other side for the Stampeders only had 106 passing yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Didn't do enough to help this team get over the hump. And if he did do a little bit more, they could have won because they only lost by 4 points respectively. Peyton Logan had 6 receptions for 65 yards, along with Tommy Stevens, 6 carries for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground, which is a big reason why they were in this game and only lost by 4 points. Markel Mitchell's 7 receptions for 59 yards, along with Reggie Beggleton's 4 receptions for 21 yards, caught the lone touchdown by Jake Meyer. The Stampeders defense was also another reason why they hung in this game, with 2 interceptions by Trey Roberson and Bentley Sanders. Looking at this game only being a 4-point victory, and how the Montreal Alouettes had to storm back because they were down for a little bit in this game. They had to really turn it up in the second half because, they were down by 12 points going into, this third quarter. I mean, this second half. So looking at how this went, the way that they stormed back, scoring 18 points to the 3 for the other side for the Calgary Stampeders. What are your thoughts when it comes to how this game transpired at the end?
I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. Oh, my bad. I heard David Ruffin. My bad. My mind just went there. Um, the Stampeders had a W. They had Alouettes on the ropes, and this is something that if ever you play on a football team and you get a chance to have a team down, the team, the coaching staff implores you to put the foot on the throat. Don't give them any hope. Don't give them any chances of revival. Don't let them think that they have a shot in this game. And unfortunately, the Stampeders allowed the Alouettes to think they actually had a shot to win this game. And the Alouettes took the shot, they extended it, and then they sealed the deal with a W. I still believe that even though Cody Fajardo is putting forth a good stat line, he's just a tad bit careless with the ball, and that's going to cost them. That's going to cost the Alouettes eventually. And the running game, I will continue to say it, I want to see more out of them other than Fajardo. I want to see more out of them. I want to see more in that running game. And they need to have that happen. Otherwise, the mistakes that Fajardo is putting forth in the pocket, plus the lack of a running game, is going to basically make the Alouettes paper champions, and that's not what they want. That and the Alouettes defense really didn't show up all that much in this game. Yes, shout out to Deontay Ruffin, though. This was a game the Stampeders should have had, but they gave this game away. And you cannot do that against a good team. A good team that is playing subpar, you give them a shot, you give them a crack, and they'll open that crack all the way wide open. And in this game, that's exactly what happened.
It definitely did. And, the Alouettes definitely, like you said with Fajardo, he cannot keep that up, or this winning streak will not continue. If he continues to turn that ball over, he has got to get that under control. Hopefully, in due time, they will, because they are still due for a bye week, as they have played all 5 weeks. The Roughriders were beneficiary of having that bye week. It also helped get them. It also helped them prepare their backup quarterback. Because had they not had that extra week to prepare, who's to say that they wouldn't have had the success that they had in this previous game, even though the other team helped them out with the 4 interceptions. But
that's true.
In this game alone, the Alouettes are getting to a point to where they are starting to look like they need that bye week. But they're still scratching out dubs here and there. And the Stampeders definitely put up a pretty good performance when you look at how their rushing attack went. Like, their rushing attack is what kept them in this game. And that's what they're going to have to continue to lean on if they're going to have lackluster play from their quarterback. Because, I think it's safe to say that we saw a lackluster performance out of Jake Meyer in this game with only 106 passing yards, touchdown, and interception. But through the first half, it was enough to keep them in the game, okay? We saw it get exposed in the second half as the Alouettes defense really put their foot to the ground and held that offense for the Stampeders from not really putting up more than just 3 points in the second half. So looking at how everything transpired for the Alouettes and the fact that they shut out the Stampeders in the fourth quarter. It was a 15-0 score as far as fourth quarter score alone. So the Alouettes really stepped up. Whatever halftime speech they had, somebody lit a fire under their rear end and said, "You guys are absolutely sucking right now. This does not look like a 4-0 team right now. If you're tired, you need to, grab a Prime energy drink." Not trying to shout you out, too much, but I'm saying that, a Celsius, whatever. Drink something, a shot of bourbon, whatever you need to go out there and make this happen. And they did. They absolutely did. And looking at this, I think that they won't look back, because this is a game that they really needed, because they're looking at other teams like the Roughriders and saying, yeah, if we're going to have a chance to top them at the end of the season, we got to step it up, and we got to step it up with our quarterback play, for one, not turning the ball over like he did, because 2 interceptions almost cost him. And we got to step it up a little bit with our running attack, because even though he had 56 yards on the ground, Walter Fletcher only had 5 carries on the day, and the rest of them came from Cody Fajardo. So if you're having less than 10 carries on the ground in a day, and half of them are coming from your quarterback, that's not a recipe for success. You're lucky to be 5-0 right now. And a lot of it hangs on the shoulders of what that defense has been capable of doing this year.
The Alouettes should be thanking God for coming out there with a W. This was an L. This was a gift-wrapped L because they were at home with an underwhelming performance. And I agree with you. Somebody, whether it was a coach, an assistant coach, the ball boy, one of the players, one of the captains on the team, they must have lit a fire under the team in general, and they got after it. Because the way the Stampeders were playing the first half, if they were to keep that going the second half, we would have actually seen not just an L, we would have seen an L from the Alouettes. We would say, wow, they really took it hard on the chin, and they did not put forth their best effort today. And they must have in the middle of the game said, okay, well, yeah, this game's the Stampeders. Let's just chuck it. Let's just chuck this game, and let's just go to the next week. Kudos and congrats to the Alouettes for not thinking that. And they said, we got to have this game. And I agree with you when you said that this could be one of those springboard type games. Good teams need to have that test where they don't put forth their best effort. They don't put forth their best foot. They don't execute the way they have in weeks prior. And they just don't have it yet. They come out with a W because they find a way to win. And when a team that is as good as the Alouettes can find a way to win, that's when I really believe the team can be dangerous. Now, still, the running game needs to be better, and Fajardo needs to cut down on those turnovers. But as far as a team is concerned, this is really good for the Alouettes because now they could say, well, we don't have to play our best game. We don't have to put up 40 points. We don't have to pitch shutouts all game long on defense. We can find a way to win. We can make that one extra play more than our opponent. We can get that one extra point more than our opponent. That builds the confidence. So, yeah, congrats to Alouettes.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about them and the Roughriders and our thoughts of if either one of these two teams have a chance of going 18-0 for the rest of the season as we carry on. But with that being said, guys, we're going to take our first commercial break. And when we come back, we've got the Gridiron Scoop. We've also got the Grand Champ when we come on back. We'll see you guys on the other side of this first commercial break.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Quick!
We're just getting started. Total Football Talk will return right after this. Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. Hey, Eagles fan, join my man Cool McCain and a host of others as they break down every single game, every single week in an objective manner, and also from a fan's perspective as well. Remember, this cast feels just like you. Nobody likes you. And you don't care. Fly, Eagles, fly. Eagles Elite Podcast, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube and other podcast outlets.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. You kids from the block. New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck. Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Welcome back. Total Football Talk, episode 45, as we are here to discuss the Alouettes rallying to beat the Stampeders 30-26 to remain undefeated through 5 weeks of play. I am your co-host, Drew Willingham, along with the EP of all EPs, Cole Johnson, back from our first commercial break. We have some more things to get to, and that being another one that we have to discuss, the Gridiron Scoop. Here at the Gridiron Scoop, some tragic news came a few days ago when it came to a fatal car accident on Friday for rookie cornerback Khyree Jackson, who died at the age of 24 as a result of that car crash. When looking at this team, the Minnesota Vikings, who drafted this rookie in the 4th round just this season, just this year, didn't even get a chance to go through training camp, didn't get a chance to go through preseason, didn't get a chance to go through his first full season in the NFL. Looking at how tragic that was, will this team be able to honor his memory properly this upcoming 2024 season and beyond?
I think so. Now, do I think they will honor it with stellar play on the field? Maybe not. But I will say this about the Vikings organization. They are classy. They try to, they try to adhere to Midwestern values, and normally they believe that those who wear the purple and mustard, they're family. So that's what they try to project. So I really believe that he will get the just due in this season, and I really believe they might do. I'm thinking they probably will do something like wear a decal on the helmet or a patch on their jersey, basically commemorating the loss of this person who unfortunately did not play a down in the NFL. But it just goes to show how fragile life is when you have something like this happen.
This definitely was very tragic. I mean, you never want to see any news like this come out.
No.
Whether they played 17, 18 seasons of downs in the NFL, or especially never getting the opportunity. At least the cool thing that he did get to experience was he got to hear his name called. He got to begin the process. He'd gone through OTAs and a little bit of the mini camp stuff and was around the organization. But during the time where they have a very small window of time off after OTAs and mini camp before they go into the real training camp with pads and preparation for the preseason, you get a very, very short window of time off because you have a long season ahead. And it's just really sad that during that really, really short window of time, this kid passed away, and in a very tragic way, like that. He got in the car to go somewhere and then was gone. So it sucks. And when you look at that, and then, like you said, you think they'll be able to honor him with the patch and with honorary patch or something this year. But do you think that there's a chance that we could see them potentially play like an absolute dumpster fire with all the changes that they've made this year, like with the quarterback, moving on to Atlanta, drafting JJ McCarthy, the moves they've made this offseason in personnel and coaching and all sorts of stuff in the front office as well, with assistant changes and stuff like that. Do you think that this team is going to regress now that Kirk Cousins is gone to where they don't potentially honor this kid's memory properly? Or do you think just a patch on the sleeve is going to be enough to honor him regardless of how well or how bad they play this year?
Well, for those like us, I think it is safe to say that we are football aficionados. A patch is enough. You know, we could care less if the team goes 13-4 or 4-13. If they were actually to show, okay, so this young man made an impression upon the team to the where they're going to honor him team wide throughout the season, I think that would be satisfactory for us. Now, for the Vikings fan, I think they would want to have this motivate them. Say, okay, this one's for Khyree. Let's play for him. Not Kyrie Irving. I'm sorry, my bad. But you're talking about a team that right now, and you mentioned it beautifully. In March, their quarterback of I think 8 years decided to go bye-bye on them because he took a bag in Atlanta, and also his wife was in his ear. Honey, I think we need to go home. I feel the itch to go back home because home for wifey is Atlanta. But I digress. Exactly. 100. She was like, I'm sick of Kurt, I'm sick of these Minnesota winters. I don't mind some ice. I don't mind it being cool, but Atlanta would be a whole lot warmer in January, February, and March than being up here in Minnesota. I don't want to dig out of snow no more. Let's go down south. Okay. With that being said, you have a team that right now they have to pin their hopes offensively on Aaron Jones. That is who has to really steer the ship. Yes, I know they got Justin Jefferson there still. I know they have Adam Thielen. Well, no, they don't have Adam Thielen there. He's now a Panther. They have KJ Osborne. I mean, they have some talent there, yes, on offense. However, the two quarterbacks is going to be throwing the ball is JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold. Come on. Really? JJ McCarthy, who, yes, I know he recently brought home a national championship to Michigan, and they ain't been able to say that in 26 years. I know, I'm understanding that. However, this is a person who has not taken a snap in the NFL yet. And you got Sam Darnold, who he has been a Jet. He's been a 49er. He's been a Panther. But this is who you're hanging your hat on at quarterback. No.
I mean, he is a national champion.
I'll give McCarthy credit. Yes, he's a national champion. You know, he played well when he needed to play well. And look, I'll say this about JJ. He seems to pick up the game well. What I want to see is if he's able to be the difference maker in the pocket. And a team like the way the Vikings are built, they're built to actually have their quarterback be the difference maker. Now I might be wrong. I might not be seeing it the right way, but McCarthy, I won't say game manager because that'll be insulting him, really. But I think he's the next step up from a game manager. He's that guy where it's like, okay, I know that I'm not supposed to turn over the ball, but I can give you a play or two in a game. I think he's there. Sam Darnold, game manager all the way. So they've had quarterbacks, or they've had quarterback play where they've needed to have 300, 350, 400-yard games just to sniff the W. And yes, Aaron Jones gives them a different look. Dalvin Cook just simply wasn't that guy for some reason. But Aaron Jones probably could give them a little bit more in the carries department, but he's going to probably give them a whole lot more also in the running back out the backfield that can catch department too. I just don't see the Vikings. I mean, they were 7-10 last year. I think they probably will equal that, if not be 6-11. And that is not saying that I'm rooting for it. Like, look, one of my closest friends is a Vikings fan. I really don't want them to to do bad, because that means I'll be hearing my friend every Sunday and Monday wanting to curse the team out. So I want the Vikings to do well. I just don't like the makeup of the team as a whole. Offensively, defensively, I think they're getting better, but I'm not really feeling them. I really am not.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for them to reestablish that offense, because, like you said, I mean, JJ McCarthy's got some things to prove, and watch out of spite. He goes ham this year and balls out, and we see some pretty good play out of the quarterback position. But I'm not optimistic on that. I'm going to remain with my football intelligence intact and agree with you on that, and move on to the next topic. A topic that we discussed last week, but based on some, resurfacing news that came out over this past weekend and this past since we talked about him last week. And even though it feels like we're talking about him almost every week, I mean, it's not like when it was Thomas, they were Patrick Brady the second before. Okay, but I know. But hey, at least when it comes to this, we got to talk about the relevant news in the NFL to counterbalance our CFL talk. And looking at the 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk posting a photo of Commanders film amid contract NFL trade rumors. Should this encourage the team to expedite the trade or to finally find a way to silence him on social media?
Brandon wants his bag. Goodness gracious. I mean, he really wants his bag. Bad. Man, okay. So I think I've heard that he's actually, if I might be wrong, but I think I've heard him say that he's pulled down 49ers stuff on his social media too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at a guy who I know he's saying, well, look, I was the number one yards getter and through the air. I made that young man Brock Purdy look really, really good. Yeah, you have other guys like Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey on the team, but I led the team in receiving yards. I know I should be broken off cheddar. You broke off Deebo some money, and I actually caught for more yards, more than his best season. So if you're going to break him off some cheddar, you got to break me off some. And I think that's the focus he's having. And I think he wants to break the bank. Unfortunately, what the 49ers will have to do, I really believe, is to cut bait. And I hate to say it this way. I think they need to cut bait simply because they did draft a wide receiver in, was it the first round?
Yes.
The first round.
Yeah. I want to say they did.
Yeah. I believe it was the first round they drafted a wide receiver. So, you're talking about a team that I think they look to the future often, but they try to corral those who make an impact on the team. I want to believe that the 49ers would want to keep Ayuk. I'm not going to step on a limb and say that he's gone yet, but I think these are negotiation games he's playing. It's like, look, if you're saying that, I'm in these contract negotiations, you're not rolling the Brinks truck in my direction. You're basically saying that you're not in Brandon Ayuk's corner. So if that's the case, I'm gonna be like one of the Shark Tank people and say I'm out until you roll the Brinks truck in my direction, because you know how much I want. You know how much cheddar I want. You know how much cheese I want to eat. Give me the bag because I've earned it. And I really believe John Lynch is wanting to play the patience game and basically sell him on the idea, look, man, we got Brock Purdy here. He's going to be at the end of his rookie contract. We're going to have to throw a whole lot of bag in his direction. We might have to drive 2 Brinks trucks in his home. We can't go ham on signing you. We already just signed a Deebo to a big deal. We signed Christian McCaffrey to a big deal. We can't be having you sign a big deal. That would mean basically, the Super Bowl trip we just had, we'll be having less of those, because more of these wonderful players that you call teammates, they'll have to go elsewhere. They're trying to sell them on the idea of trying to sign for less. The question to me is Brandon's feeling the love of being a 49er, or does he want to get paid? And he's leaning toward the getting paid portion. I don't think he wants to do the kumbaya stuff.
Absolutely not. I mean, you were correct when it came to they did draft a wide receiver in the first round, Ricky Pearsall, out of the University of Florida with the 31st overall pick in the first round. I mean, that's not something to get too excited about because it was in the latter part of the first round, but it does send a message to Ayuk, who more than likely who was probably vocal about this before it even leaked into the media, probably towards the end of last season when it concluded. Like, look at my stats, look at my production, look at how far we got, and pointed it at himself, even though it's more of a collective team effort. Everybody did it. But he does have some argument there, but the team is basically saying we drafted a receiver in the first round. They also drafted a receiver in the fourth round when they took a wide receiver, Jacob Cowing, from the University of Arizona with the 135th pick. That's like the equivalent of when the formerly known as the Redskins took Robert Griffin III in 2011 and Kirk Cousins, when they took Griffin in the first round and Cousins in the fourth. So
fourth round.
Different positions, but still the same message is being passed on. And you also have to look at the fact that Shanahan was running the show then too. So even though he's not the one drafting these players like Shanahan did his father did when he was with the Washington team, it's a little bit of kind of like what goes around comes around. It's a repetition of ways out there. That's the best way I can really put it together in this moment. But you know where I'm going with this. Yeah. So looking at how it was with the first and fourth round pick, that's like their leverage to say, Brandon, if you leave, we still have two other options who could potentially fill your role. And you weren't a number one overall pick in the first round. Okay. So you need to humble yourself, because they can honestly keep him under contract and not do anything with him and let him get all upset. And if he wants to Antonio Brown himself out of the league, then he needs to really watch. Now, it's not quite as bad as what AB did, but it's still along those lines. If it becomes a distraction to the team, if it's getting to that point now, it surely will by the time we get to the season, if he doesn't stop with the social media antics.
And that's nails on the head. That to me is what I believe that's the message they want to send to Brandon. It's like, okay, yeah, you can try to hold out, or you can claim that you're deserving of the contract that Justin Jefferson has signed, but we're thinking about winning, and we're gonna break you off some, but think of things such as like deferment, of having a delay in your payment of getting that money. We want you to get paid, but we don't want you to be we don't want you to throw a monkey wrench on the team in the way we overall want to be. And the drafting was messages sent saying to him, we're ready to move on from you if you still feel as though you want to be paid more than what I think we're willing to offer you. And the sooner that Brandon gets off of that, the sooner he'll be a 49er. And I think the more surprised he'll be in getting the deal that I think he wants, unless he wants the max. And if that's the case, he would have to demand the trade, or play this out, or sit out when they want to probably franchise him next year and have another team sign him.
Absolutely. The storm is coming, just like it is here in my way of the United States right now. The storm is coming if you do not get things under wraps now, being you, Brandon Ayuk. You guys, like we talked about last week, you need to find some type of common ground, meet in the middle, get through this season. And, even if they need to take care of him on travel expenses or something like that, or I wouldn't say travel expenses, but travel accommodations in certain ways for this upcoming season, just to help make him a little bit more comfortable, to reassure him that after this season, will take care of you. Right now, we're on the cusp of making it to a Super Bowl championship victory, okay? Not just making it to the Super Bowl, but actually winning. And you got to look at teams like the Eagles in the NFC who made it and couldn't make it back the following year. Like this previous year, they couldn't repeat their success in getting back. It's hard enough to get to the game, let alone win it. And they've been to the game with this team. Now they just have to polish some things on the fine edges to get it to where they can actually come through with the victory. So, and this is part of that they need to polish this up now as far as finding a way to meet in the middle and table this conversation to the end of the season, because you're under contract. There's nothing you can do about it unless you sit out the season. And you saw how that worked for like other players who've done that in the past, sat out. Le'Veon Bell, the running back position, and how that hurt his career is a prime example of that when he did that when he was acting up with the Steelers over contract talks. He ended up sitting out a year, came back, and was never the same. So, let alone he was a little bit older at that point, and it is a totally different position. It's a little bit easier to stay in shape and stay relevant as a wide receiver than it is as a running back, because you take a lot more of a beating as a running back. But I think history has shown us that when you get a little too vocal in the public about your contract, and if you threaten to sit out and miss games and miss opportunities to better yourself as a player, it's going to affect you in the long run. And I just hope, as someone who admires talent, no matter what team that they are on, I hope that he makes the right decision, whether he gets his money before the season starts or next offseason, and balls out and does the right thing as far as his positive contributions to the team yet again, and everything else will figure itself out, I believe.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
With that being said, we got one more topic here in the Gridiron Scoop. Lastly, in this set of topics for the Gridiron Scoop, we have a recent comparison of Colorado University quarterback Shedeur Sanders to NFL quarterback Geno Smith that made headline. We genuinely stay away from college football, but this, because it was a comparison to someone in the NFL, I felt like it was necessary to bring up today. And with this being said, do you feel this was an accurate scouting report or a shot at Coach Prime and his family?
A little of both. A little of both. The scouting report on Geno Smith has been he has an arm. He can throw it when he wants to throw it. He's not the scrambler type. So he basically is going to have to beat you in the pocket, which that is similar to Shedeur Sanders. I mean, he's not the scrambler. He beats you in the pocket. And he has a pretty good arm. It's still developing, obviously, but the arm is good. But I actually think even though there is some similarities between the two, I believe this was a shot at Coach Prime. And the reason why I think it's a shot, seemingly we've heard Coach Prime say that he wants his boys, which is of course Shedeur and Shiloh at the moment, be drafted by certain teams when they do get into the NFL draft. And so I think the NFL is not really liking that personally. And obviously they're not liking the fact that he is saying that he's wanted to only coach in college and not coach in the NFL as well. But we still have to see this young man play. I mean, more. I mean, let's see if he's improved from last year. I mean, he has 1 year in Colorado under his belt. He has, of course, another year at Jackson State under his belt before then. So let's see if he's grown enough to where he won't be compared to somebody who, quite frankly, it really is an insult to compare. And I'm not saying this as taking a shot at Geno Smith, but let's be honest. When you think Geno Smith, you're not thinking top 10 quarterback in NFL. I mean, you're not.
I mean, you're not. I mean, and they hit that one good season with the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
But, even he did a little bit of a regression this past season. You know,
Yeah,
because
he didn't have a bad season last year, but yes, compared to 2022, it was a bit of a regression, right?
yeah, I mean, at least we're not sitting up here with the scouting report of his former New York Jets days and comparing him to butt fumble or
Oh
anything.
gosh,
He
no.
did play a little bit better, but he wasn't consistent enough to
Right.
where he ended up getting benched. And he's
Mhm.
bounced around the league a little bit to the point to where, you know, he's where he's at now with Seattle, and he got his opportunity and he's playing a little bit better. I think I agree with you in the fact that I think this was a shot at Coach Prime
Mhm.
because, you know, I think the NFL would like to see him coaching for a team at some point. Although his argument is basically on the politics and, you know, how, you know, certain teams buy their championships with the way that they structure contracts. But I mean, you got to look at how the NIL deals are in the NCAA. I mean, it's very similar to that now. There's not much
Mhm.
difference between the NFL and the NCAA as far as the structure and pay, except for the NFL's on a higher paying scale because of the amount of revenue that they bring in comparison to the NCAA. And even the NCAA brings in a respectively close amount of revenue. It's just not distributed as evenly as you could argue from what the NFL has. But,
Right.
you know, with Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, you know, he's left a mark, you know, in the game of football, whether it's college, whether it's the NFL, and even you could argue in other sports like Major League Baseball and college baseball too, with what he did, you know, coming on up Florida State. All right.
Mhm.
Thinking about everything as a whole, and I agree with you when it comes to that this could be a shot at Coach Prime and his family. Looking at this right here, when it comes to Shedeur and Shiloh and in this, you know, being the dynamic for Coach Prime, do you see this affecting how they go about things at Colorado this year, or do you think it affects? Do you think it, you know, motivates them towards more greatness for this season to actually achieve something even more special, considering how Coach Prime has been vocal about everything? This is going to be their last season together. Do you think they have a good chance at balling out and proving the naysayers and comparing Shedeur to Geno Smith wrong, and that he improves his draft stock as well?
I think this could actually serve as a motivating factor for them. However, I think there's more that could serve as that. First year, the Big 12, well, back at the Big 12, you have the subpar season after the good start as to last season. You have a lot of people who have been railing against Coach Prime and the way he is going about his business coaching there, which, in my estimation, nothing is wrong with how he has gone about coaching there. I that turns to that seems to motivate at least the coaching staff, if not the players that have stuck around. And from what I understood, there's many that had stuck around from last year, so they only can go up from here. I can't see the Buffaloes going 4-8 again like they did last year. I don't. I think they'll be a better team. I think they'll be a more improved team, and then I think they'll have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder, where they really didn't have one last year per se. So I think they'll play better. I think this just adds another layer to the chip that they already have on their shoulder.
I agree that this could definitely serve as motivation. And lastly, an impromptu question I thought of, you know, we saw NBA draft. We saw LeBron James, you know, orchestrate how Bronny got drafted pretty much and where he got drafted to through his agent, Rich Paul, who was the human megaphone, as I've been dubbed, but we'll dub it as Rich Paul for, you know, the agent of, you know, the NBA. Do you think that there's a way with Shedeur and with Shiloh coming into the 2025 NFL draft, or at least announcing that they will be, you know, and they'll be eligible for it? Do you think that something similar with what we saw with
Right.
LeBron doing for his kid in the NBA, that Primetime could have their agent do the same for his kids in this upcoming NFL 2025 draft next season?
I don't think it will be able to be the same. Obviously, Coach Crime can pull some strings, but I don't think it'll be the same because I think the NFL will probably impart upon the agents that Shedeur and Shiloh decide to sign with and Coach Prime that they have to let the process play itself out. That you know And it probably would put upon Coach Prime. Look, Dion, you went through this process before. You let's be honest. Did you really want to be a Falcon? No, not really. But you got drafted there and you played it out. And you improved the team when you got drafted there almost immediately. So have the same faith in Shedeur and Shiloh, and have the same faith in the system now that you you did 35-6 years ago, where when you got into the league, you basically wrecked shop. You did your thing. Well, let your boys take care of the stuff on the field, and let the teams go through the process of signing them. And wherever the two go, they go. And if they go together, fine. If they don't, that's fine too. I mean, the whole league is sprinkled with them. I mean, you're looking with the Cowboys, and now the Texans. It was the Cowboys and the Bills, but now the Cowboys and Texans. You have you have a Diggs on the Cowboys. You have a Diggs on the Texans, and it works well. It works fine. So don't change a thing. Just let it all play out.
I'd have to agree with that too. I mean, it's got to be a much tougher to do that in the game of football.
Far tougher. Yeah.
There's 7 rounds in the game rather than in the draft, rather than what you have in this league of the NBA, where you only have 2. Okay, the rosters are bigger. Mm-hmm. The season's longer. There's a lot more into the game of football than there is to basketball. But, I just kind of thought about that as we, those of us who look at the NBA as well and been talking about it, how ironically a legendary father of the game had influence into where his son landed. If we could potentially see that as another story being in the NFL of the same caliber. So even though the only difference is, Primetime's not playing anymore. But, right. Looking at all that, I still think it's pretty remarkable that you've got someone that's a legend, and then you got their kids that are about to come out and play. We'll have to see how things pan out for this duo that are coming from the Sanders family in the 2025 draft. And with that being said, we got to get to one of my favorite parts of the week.
Total football talk.
Where are my dogs at? When it comes to the grand champ of the week, picking the dog of the week, take it to Cole for his choice for his week's pick for dog of the week.
Well, I really would love to award it to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, the whole team. They stood up and they stood out, and I'm proud of them. But I'm going to go there. I'm actually going to go with Vernon Adams Jr. I think it's my turn to actually say, you know what, you're a grand champ, and not just for this week. You've been a grand champ thus far throughout the young CFL season. I'm looking at the stat sheet every single week. I see your name, and I see at least 350 passing yards beside it, and it's becoming it's becoming routine now. You know how difficult it is to throw for that many yards, to throw for 3 and 4 touchdowns, and barely throw picks. That is not easy to do. And to do it on any professional level for a good chunk of time, you just got to tip your cap to him. So, Mr. Adams, you are my dog this week because you got busy. And you could have taken this game lightly. You could have said, well, this team is winless. We're going to their crib. You know what? We don't have to put our best foot forward. No, you were like, I'm setting the tone. I'm setting the table. And we're going to rock this joint the way the Lions rock it. And look what you did. Wonderful performance. Wonderful performance.
Absolutely. And, Cole, your synopsis right there with Vernon Adams Jr. was great because we've definitely seen some greatness from him over the course of this season through 5 weeks. And, can't ask for anything better when it comes to your quarterback play. And I'm going to take this into a little bit of a different direction because I have been bringing up Vernon Adams Jr. for this pick for, a few times in this season already. And I want to change things up with who I'm going to pick this week. And you could easily ride the coattails of that and say that this was somebody that you could pick, and both of us can take this. But I'm going to actually give a little bit more respect to special teams. And I like to do this at times. And I have to do this for a team that just got their first win of the season, Cole. I have to look at Sergio Castillo. He was 6 of 6 on field goals in the day with a long of 53 yards, contributing to 18 of the 25 points the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had in order to get their first win of the season. Had he not kicked those 6 field goals, been perfect on the day, they may not have gotten this win this past weekend. I mean, Redblacks helped him out by only putting up 16 points and playing like an absolute pack of dumpster Pelicans in this list right here. You got to probably say that the Redblacks on the weekend, let's bring it up again. Let's see our homies, the dumpster Pelicans right here. They played like the third set of dumpster Pelicans in the back. The one standing on top of that Ziploc bag that is probably full of particles we don't want to know about. But they are standing on it. They're as dumpster Pelicans. And you know what you did? You gave the number 2 or 3 dumpster Pelican of the league. We'll say 3 because they actually have a win now. You gave the third set of dumpster Pelicans in the league the win by playing like the third worst dumpster Pelican in the league. So I have to give my credit to the special teams of the Blue Bombers, and led by their kicker, Sergio Castillo, with 6 of 6 on field goals with a long of 53 for my pick of Dog of the Week.
I'm glad you picked Sergio. I am. I think he needed to get some love. 6 field goals, and his leg, I think, was a huge reason as to why they did pull that W out. Yeah, he deserves that. He does.
Plus, it's an opportunity to actually have the Blue Bombers in the discussion for Dog of the Week, because when are we going to have that opportunity again? Unless they have an epic turnaround and start playing lights out for the rest of the season. Right. I don't know. It's not looking like that's a potential, but considering that your kicker helped get you over the hump, I felt like it was time to give him some love.
Yeah.
So with that being said, you guys, thank you all for tuning in so far. We got one last commercial break we got to get to. We'll see you guys here in about 2.5 minutes to round out with featured attractions and the 2-minute drill before we run away for another episode.
Coming up next, the featured attractions. This is Total Football Talk. Comey Media Incorporated, creating content magic in the real world.
In a world where chronicles of the past are brought to the streams, whether the content is relatable or completely beyond your realm of life, there is no shadow of a doubt that this show is absolutely full of shenanigans. Get ready for
D. Willie in the Evening,
this Sunday at 10:05 p.m. Eastern,
exclusively on Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie the bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie bucks?
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commander's Gridiron Report. You want your commanders to be repped right? Well, D. Willie is your man. Commander's Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern, 10:05 a.m. Central. On the Sotoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J. Cool.
Where my soldiers, right side, commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, commanders.
Welcome back to Total Football Talk, your source for hard-hitting gridiron action. We are back for episode 45 today. As we've gone through the first few sets of segments, we now have ticket to the featured attractions to discuss. What's some tap for that? Here at the featured attractions, CeeDee Lamb fires back at ex-Cowboys receiver Cole Beasley over apparent criticism. Will this melodrama help or hurt Beasley's chances of signing with another NFL team?
Help or hurt Beasley? Oh.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb's already under contract, so I kind of left him out of the equation. But yeah. Cole Beasley, he's a free agent. You know, he hasn't played. He was part of. He was signed on a practice squad last year, but didn't actually play, and is still a free agent. Hasn't announced his retirement yet. So do you think that him bringing himself back into the spotlight, will this hurt or help his chances of signing with an NFL team?
Well, Drew Willingham, it's not going to be hurt or help because ding, he's having a hard time being on the team in the first place. I'm sorry. Let me stop channeling Kyle Nash for a second there.
Ding. I'm gonna be hearing that a lot tonight.
Oh, I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Shout out to you, Kyle. I hope you do well tonight and in or out. But with that being said, no, I don't think it does either. I don't think it helps him. I don't think it hurts him either. Because the dude is a controversy magnet anyway. I mean, it seems as though whenever there is an opportunity to stir the pot, he is more than willing to do it. But I think he has to understand he's 35 now. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore. You know, so I don't think the tete with CeeDee Lamb is gonna hurt or help his chances to be on an NFL squad. Now, it may hurt his chances to be on the Cowboys. And I say that because I think Gerald would probably say, well, I don't understand why Cole wants to be talking all that type of stuff. I mean, CeeDee is one of the best receivers in the game. And you know, we here want to get to Super Bowl and, you know, time ticket for me. I mean, you know, I'll be 81 in October. I can't have this division. And you know, and I believe we feel in the team that's going to be Super Bowl bound by 2025. We're going to be in New Orleans this year. New Orleans in February. That's how we're going to be. New Orleans in February. I mean, so I will say he has hurt his chances to be on the Cowboys, but the other 31 teams, I don't think he's really hurt his chances. I don't think he's helped his chances either. I think they just look at him and says, "You old fool, just retire already."
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely he's probably trying to kick the can down the road a little bit too much because he's not ready to retire and he can't face the truth a little bit. And CeeDee Lamb fired back at him, and I don't think that we're going to see any really repercussions from that, which is why I worded it the way that I did. But I feel like Cole Beasley taking the shot that he did is trying to keep his name relevant enough to where a team sees that he's still a free agent, sees that he's still relatively in decent shape, and that they should give him one last shot. But looking at Cole Beasley, with what he's done over his career, the latter part of it hasn't really been as exciting to watch. Let's just put it to you that way. I mean, he went from the Cowboys, where he played for 7 seasons, to the Bills for 3, the Buccaneers in 2022 following all that, and then back to the Buffalo Bills that same season. But then last year was part of the New York Giants practice squad. So he didn't even make it into the season as a player. He didn't even do anything productive for the team. So now basically almost 2 years out of football, if you take away the fact that, the practice squad situation. I think you got to look at that. Him talking about this was a way to get his name relevant, to get back into the graces. But based on your reaction here, I think it's safe to say that he might have hurt his chances a little bit rather than helped.
Probably. Because it's the saying, it's better to be thought of as a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. But we're talking about Cole Beasley here. His mouth remains as wide open as a hooker on any street corner that you could desire.
So would that mean he's feeling like this?
I think I got my swagger back.
Because depending on what they put inside them prior to their mouths being open like that, they may feel like they've got their swagger back, depending on what kind of uppity they're on.
Yeah.
That's the nicest way I could put it.
Oh, my brother, testify.
I was trying to get somewhere but be professional at the same time. That was tough. And Cole Beasley,
You can't handle the truth.
because Cole just compared you to a $2 hooker.
That's right.
And he said, that's right.
Yes, sir.
If you're looking for a place for football and shenanigans,
You got the right one, baby.
shout out to Henry Rowan Gardner, who will forever be a child in this movie.
What?
Oh!
No. Oh. He put Austin in here. Okay.
Was that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Heck no. No surprise. It was no surprise. Am I? No, it wasn't a surprise.
Some people probably watching this like,
Stop it. Get some help.
as we went slightly. But all in the name of fun to lighten up this topic right here. And speaking of topics, we still have a couple more to get to in this segment right here.
Who's giving them the business?
So up next, the Montreal Alouettes and the Saskatchewan Roughriders remain undefeated through CFL Week 5. Which of these two teams have a better chance to go 18-0 this 2024 CFL season, Cole? I know this is tough. I did this on purpose, but this is tough.
I'm going to have to say the Alouettes by default. By default. If it weren't for the fact that they had an injured starting quarterback, I would say the Roughriders easily, because I love the fact that they do have a running game they rely on a little more. Obviously, they rely on a lot more than the Alouettes rely on theirs. I think what tips the scales to me is, you have injury concerns with the starting quarterback for the Roughriders. And then on the Alouette side, you have Cody Fajardo, who all he has to do is just clean up those INTs. And I think he could probably be the reason why they actually get a couple of those wins. He's actually the reason why they've gotten a couple of wins already that they've had on the board. To me, both defenses seem to be what and what. I like the Roughriders defense just a little bit more. But to me, what hurts the Roughriders to me and having to go 18-0, the chances of them going 18-0 is the fact that they have a certain quarterback that just has some issue staying on the field.
So while you were saying that, I wrote some lyrics to a song, a parody that involved this topic right here, because it just started flowing through my mind. And if you know the song "I Believe I Can Fly,"
Oh, good Lord.
and you think about these lines right here when it comes to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, because that's the team I'm going to pick. And I think this song we will sing, and I'll finish the lyrics before season's end. It's going to go like this. I believe I am right. I believe the Roughriders will put up a fight. I think about it Thursday through Sunday. Turn on the TV and zone away. That's all I got. But that is still part of I Believe I Can Fly, because I believe that this team right here is going to take this to the next level. The Saskatchewan Roughriders. And why? Because the Alouettes barely escaped this game this past weekend. If it wasn't for their second half performance, they would not have won this game right here. When it comes to the Roughriders, when they come up, they just took a rendition of R. Kelly and made it look pretty good. Or maybe, no, that was me. But it was still part of inspiration from the Roughriders, okay? That's the most positive like R. Kelly's been in a very long time, okay? But when it comes to his song, he did produce a pretty decent song there in the 90s. And I had to make a parody for it right here with I Believe I Am Right. Because the Roughriders are going to be the team that is the favorite to remain undefeated. And I'm probably going to be wrong. But this is my thoughts right here because I like their entrance. I like the way that they play. And I like their uniforms, okay? The trifecta of awesomeness, okay? If you can take a week off as you are a hot team at 3-0 going into a bye and come back and still keep that train moving, and you're the Alouettes who look like they had a little bit of too much of the struggle is real to be awesome this past weekend. Shout out to Ding, Sartoba Media. When it comes to all of that right here, you have to look at the Roughriders as being the favorite to go undefeated at 18-0 for this season. Go, Jones!
Stop it. Get some help.
Hang on, before you give your rebuttal. I had to.
Oh God, that classic will never go out of style. Oh my gosh. He actually sang a rendition of I Can Believe I Can Fly.
Probably pretty bad, but I tried.
Come on. We don't need to give Robert Kelly air. Oh my gosh. All right. I don't disagree with you. It's not that I'm rooting against the Rough Riders to go as far as they can to be 18-0. I actually like the team and its makeup better, in my opinion. But I just think that they're gonna stumble because they want to have all their pieces together sooner than the Alouettes do. Now, will that happen? I might be wrong myself, but I said it by default because I actually would have answered Rough Riders if the starting quarterback was healthy.
I mean, that you put up a very good defense there too.
Mm-hmm.
We're still not sure how long Trevor will be out for. You know, if it's a similar situation to what we saw with the San Antonio Brahmas in the UFL, they didn't go undefeated, but they still made a pretty strong playoff push to where they got to the final game of the season. Now, thinking about that right there and what you just proposed there, there's a really good chance that that will come into fruition, and you know we'll have the Alouettes more than likely be the favorite to go undefeated. Right. But we have to look at the Birmingham Stallions. Through the first 8 weeks of the UFL season, they were undefeated, and they were rocking with 2 quarterback setups, and they were having lackluster play out of both. Matt Corral and Adrian Martinez were kind of lackluster because Martinez would be really great at running one week and not so great at throwing the ball. And the next week, it would be the opposite. He'd be really good at passing, but wouldn't do much on the ground. And Matt Corral would be throwing the ball when Adrian Martinez was struggling. So even though it's 2 different leagues, I see your argument right here because they were used to, when they started the season, going with the 1-2 punch at quarterback. They were playing them both in the early games of the season. With this in the CFL, they were used to Trevor Harris, and he was playing pretty stellar. And if Shea Patterson can do a better job at managing the game and not turning the ball over and putting up a little bit more production in the air, I think we'll be fine. If he continues to do what he did on the ground this past week and improves a little bit with his passing game, I think we're going to see the Roughriders be okay. They may not end up undefeated, but they're going to be at the top of their division. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to contend for a Grey Cup. And I'm going to bet on that at least. I will say right now they're the favorite because maybe I'm drinking a little bit too much of the Roughriders Kool-Aid, okay? I like the team. I'm sorry. I'm not as much of a homer for them as I am for the formerly Redskins of the NFL, but they are growing on me like a fungus, okay? And a good fungus at that. And I am going to stick with that, being the Roughriders.
D. Willie didn't sing that. Tell me D. Willie didn't just sing that.
Like, yes, Booker T, I did. Thank you for bringing some wrestling to the show there, Playmaker, as both Cole and I are fans of past, present, and future wrestling. So you know that as well, as we've talked about it off the streams, and to be able to have a little bit of football in here or to even talk about Yo King, it makes my day. So here and there, when it comes to Total Football Talk, thank you so much for bringing it in there, even though you're sitting back watching me sing going,
hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Absolutely. So, with that being said,
oh, I'm sorry.
We do have one more part of this segment to go, and one that I've been looking forward to for the entirety of the show to getting to, and that is this right here.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Not just giving him the business, but showing him the door, predicting the hot seats with the potential of dismal play from certain teams in the NFL this season. Cole, let's pick 5 NFL head coaches who could be fired by mid-season and why. And when thinking about that, who are your teams with head coaches, and 5 of those teams in the 32-team league that have a chance of getting fired by midseason based on what we've seen in the past and what we could see in the future in this 2024 season through the first 8 or 9 games?
Well, for those who always want to deliver the pink slip to Mike Tomlin, that's not happening.
No, get that out of here. Yeah.
Goodness gracious. Every year that seems to be talk. No, not him. Let me see. I want to say Kevin Stefanski. I do. And the reason being, yes, I know he just won Coach of the Year for the second time in his tenure, in his stint with the Browns. I know he had 11-6 record this past year. I know he has a pretty good team still. I know. However, I just think that they're gonna stumble. I don't think they're gonna be horrible, but I think they're gonna stub their toe and they're gonna realize that they've been winning in spite of the guy, not because of him. And I think he's one is gonna go. Let me see.
You think he'll be gone by mid-season?
I think he has the potential to be gone by mid-season.
So Kevin Stefanski's one. Okay.
Let me see. Trying to think who else. Who I think. I'm not the biggest fan of Sean McDermott, the coach of the Bills. I'm not the biggest fan of him. Not that I hate him. It's just, I just think he just stands in the way between the Bills' success far too much, and I just think he needs to get up out of there. As much this hurts me to say. As much as I want this to not be the case, no, actually, I won't say him. Robert Saleh.
Yes.
Please sell me on the idea that this guy deserves to have a job the way that he's run the team. I mean, look, he's a great defensive mind. There's no question about that. And seemingly the team likes to play with him as the head guy. I'm not sold on the results of him. Sans and Aaron Rodgers, or a quarterback that is elite level. I'm just not sold on him. And I barely am sold with an elite QB as his quarterback. Let's see. Sean Payton, because I just think he's going to do something that's going to get him out the paint. I think his time in being an NFL coach is done.
That's four.
I think he's done too much to where I just don't like I don't like how a team responds with him. And well, I would have said Mike Vrabel, but he did get the gate in Nashville. Let me see who else. What the heck? Matt Eberflus. Come on, what is he doing with the Bears?
Nice. Very good pick. So besides, you think that he's with everything that's happened with their changing quarterback and all that, he's going to screw it up even more?
I think he is. Look, again, they hit the mother low with Caleb Williams, but apparently they hit the mother low beforehand with Justin Fields, and you saw how far the team went. They were 7-10, and that was the best season they had under Fields. So, look, I'm just not sold. I'm not sold on how Eberflus coaches the team. I'm just not sold at all.
Okay,
even with the talent they did get through free agency and the draft, I'm just not sold.
You know, you had a really solid list there, Cole. So between your five, I'm gonna repeat it for you. Kevin Stefanski of the Browns, Sean McDermott of the Bills, Robert Saleh of the Jets, Sean Payton of the Broncos, and Matt Eberflus of the Bears are the 5 head coaches that you see as potential to get relieved of their duties before midseason of the NFL. I made a list.
Okay,
you just made a list. For Chris Jericho fans out there, but your list actually had 3 of the 5 that I picked on there, which was Sean McDermott, Robert Saleh, and Matt Eberflus. So I'm glad I made a potential top 10 just in case this happened. So that would make some substitutions so we could have a different 5. So number 1's going to be Jonathan Gannon of the Arizona Cardinals.
That's a good choice too,
because
that's a good choice.
What we've seen from Kyler Duty, okay, as I still call him for Call of
not
Duty
much.
Fans. The fact that they just got Marvin Harrison Jr., and if they screw that up this year, based on Jonathan Gannon being the offensive mind that he is, I feel like he has a really good chance if they are like 1-8 or 1-7 or something like that to start the season. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, I feel like he has a chance of getting the boot. Based on the way that the quarterback play has been for the Giants, I think that Brian Daboll has a good chance.
I was about to say that was the other name that I was thinking when you said it. I was like, why she's going to say Brian Daboll?
Yeah, Brian Daboll is probably another one who's been scrutinized over the past couple of years. He had that solid first season or so with them and was turning some things around, especially after the debacle of the head coaching changes we had seen previous to his tenure and the amount of head coaches they had on the payroll while he was starting still, which was ironic. We were talking about that last year.
Right.
But I would say Jonathan Gannon of the Cardinals and Brian Daboll of the Giants are my top 2. I would have to say next on my list, if they regress to the point again like they did this past season after the 2022 surgence, I would have to say Nick Sirianni of the Eagles has a good chance of being relieved of his duties by midseason if he continues to take the trajectory downward. You also got to look at how others like Cool McCain that we know and other Eagles aficionados have basically sat back and scrutinized Nick for how he handled things during the 2023 season, us being included, football aficionados. So especially with his heckling with the fans. So between that, I would say he's in my top 5. So you got 2 teams in the NFC East that have a really good chance so far of being shown the door by midseason. Number 4, I would have to say Dennis Allen of the Saints, based on the way things have kind of been mediocre for the Saints play since Drew Brees has left. I would have to put him up there. Was he in my ultimate top 5 when we started this? No, but I had to make some adjustments based on I didn't want to copy anything that you said because yours was pretty well thought out and I wanted it to resemble as such for mine. So Dennis Allen is in my top 5 right now. And another NFC East team, the Dallas Cowboys head coach, Mike McCarthy. If this whole situation with Dak Prescott doesn't improve, if the defense regresses, considering Mike McCarthy has a stronger mind for defense than on offense, Mike McCarthy is going to get shown the door potentially by midseason, I think. Even though a lot of these teams that we discussed may just hold on to the coach till the end of the year and then let him go, whether it's by midseason or by the end of the year, I feel like that a good portion of this list between my 5 and your 5 have a really good chance of being shown the door by the end of the 2024 season, and some of them at least by midseason.
Your list is great. Seriously, your list is great. The only hiccups I have will probably be Sirianni and McCarthy, and not because I believe in them both. It's because I think the team believes in them more than they should. Look, with Sirianni, to me, the way that I see it, there is no excuse for them to have been runner-up to the Cowboys last year in AFC East. No excuse whatsoever. They have the best team in the NFC East in terms of talent. I mean, they're stacked. They were stacked on both sides of the ball, and they had the right mix of youth and experience. They should not have been a wild card team. And yes, I'm with Wise. I'm with Wise. I'm with Cool. I look directly at Sirianni for the reasons to why they weren't. But I just think that the Eagles I think they have too much faith in him, in Sirianni, that I don't think they'll pull the trigger. I think they would eventually do it. I don't think they would do it in the middle of the year. However, I don't disagree with you in saying he probably deserves it, though. And as far as McCarthy's concerned, I think we both are in agreement when we would say that dude should not be on the sideline coaching any team, no matter who, let alone the Cowboys. But we both know why he's still there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Now, I have to look at this when I see the fact that, they were just all that hype during the offseason about bringing Belichick, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you're midway through the season, okay, and at this point, let's just say you're 3-5, 3-6 through 8 or 9 games. At this point, and all the hype during this offseason, you could have had Belichick and all, or even not just him, but anybody else that you really wanted to see, set your sights on to bring into this team, and you stuck with McCarthy. If you regress to the point to where you are well under 500 at this point by midseason, I really feel like there's a really good chance that he could be shown the door. Whether it's him or Dayball definitely leads between the 3 teams in the NFC East as far as
that's
it has a good chance of this happening, and we're on the same page with that. Nick Sirianni, I get where you're at with that. There was a little bit more behind the scenes that festered besides his situation that affected the team with what happened last year. But if they don't build on that, if they don't improve, if these teams regress to where we're seeing a 3-6, I wouldn't say a 4-5, but a 3-6, 3-5 through 8 or 9 games in the midseason, I would not be surprised if they pull the trigger and let one of these two go between either the Eagles or being the Cowboys. And I think that the Eagles, no, take it back. Then the Cowboys have a better shot at this happening than the Eagles because they were just in the Super Bowl a year and a half ago. And, we saw what happened after that. And he's a very young coach. McCarthy's older, more set in his ways. Even though he had that year off and had that big ESPN special of him cramming in a barn and studying and making himself better, we're seeing more of the old Mike McCarthy out of the past couple seasons than the Mike McCarthy we saw in year 1 with Dallas when he spent that season off in the barn being a hermit with his boys and studying the game of football. Okay. So I think that because of all the hype on him coming into Dallas, all the hype on the team, if they're 3-5, 3-6 through the midway point of this year, I personally will not be surprised. That's why, even though I don't 100% believe, and he was one of my filler choices because I wanted to respect your picks, I was like, between him and Sirianni, they were kind of the throw-ins to fill out my top 5. So, but with all that said, I feel like your list was great. Mine definitely was great. I agree with you 100% on those hiccups, but I had to have a 5. I didn't want to repeat. I wanted to make it interesting. So
Yeah. Well, no, look, well, yeah, and all I'll say about Sirianni, if you really want to gauge as to if he's going to be on the hook sooner rather than later, look at the progression or regression of Jalen Hurts.
yes,
There it is, right
that
there
is
for me.
that was well said with that too, and a great way to round out this topic, as we have to now take it to my favorite part of the week. That time again, time for the snowflake of the week pick. And with that being said, I'm gonna give the floor to my man Co.
Now, you know, I normally I would say something in terms of a person who really stained the game, but and we already took to task someone with breaking news being suspended almost half the season because dude can't take his hands and keep it to himself. I'm not going to award that to him. I'm going to make this a little more lighthearted. Tyreek Hill, come on down. All right, so for those who did not see, this isn't a he was bad or he was horrible. This is more along the lines of, come on, man, really? So he was on the practice field and he was being a corner, basically, to a woman athlete. I forgot if it was like a soccer player or a volleyball player. And so the woman was the wide receiver. Tyreek was the corner. And so the ball was snapped, and Tyreek was backpedaling. The woman gives him a beautiful double move and a swim to go wide open, and she actually left him about 2-3 steps behind and caught a touchdown pass. Cheetah. I thought you was the fastest man in the NFL. Come on, brother. Really? I don't care. I don't care if it's a woman or a man. It's just, to me, you're supposed to be the fastest guy in the NFL. Why, man? Why?
That when I saw that was a total
Surprise, motherfucker.
It absolutely was. I mean, it was a surprise, and it was a great pick for your pick and snowflake of the week. And I kind of want to piggyback on that, but I'm respectfully decline and pick somebody else and stick with the game of CFL and stick with somebody who I really went ham on earlier, and I'm going to do it yet again. And that is Cameron Dukes. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Looking at what he did for the Toronto Argonauts. 4 thrown interceptions on the day, basically handing the game over to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. On this day, they would not have remained undefeated in this game had they not had 4 interceptions thrown to their defense, okay? Let's just be 100% real. As much as I'm a fan of this team, and that being the Saskatchewan Roughriders, I have to be 100% honest in saying they would not have their undefeated streak intact had it not been for Cameron Dukes throwing those 4 interceptions to their defense, like literally right into their hands. You see the highlights? It's like right here. Like you're standing right here, and the ball is right here in your wheelhouse to catch it. Me, 37 years old. Cole, not much older than that, but still could be on the field standing in one place, have the ball thrown in this wheelhouse to where your hands are just right here and catch it. Like my hands, microphone, catch, ball right there. Same deal. If you're throwing it that easy to the defender, you're asking to have the loss. Which mafia member paid you off, Cameron Dukes, to throw 4 interceptions right into their hands? Did they threaten to come bust your kneecaps? Because it surely wasn't like the Detroit Lions out there in the NFL biting off kneecaps. Did you have a threat to have your kneecaps bitten off against your will? Because that's what it looked like when you're throwing 4 interceptions right into the hands, microphone, football, hands right here, and catching the interceptions at bay. You, sir, are my pick for Snowflake of the Week. You need to get it together. You need to turn it around instead of turning the ball over to the other team and helping them pick up these dubs.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is the Caucasian Wazalefe. I thought for a second that this was mentality. I'm like, wow, okay.
You can see where I get my inspiration from.
Yes, I totally can see that. Oh
I throw my own creative spin on it, but I get my inspiration from my brothers and their content out here in these streams. They make me better, and I do my best to rub off in the same light. So there's some yeah, throw the praise whenever you get a chance out here in these streams.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Facts.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Oh my.
When it comes to that, we only have one more thing to do before we roll on out of here, and that is go through the 2-minute drill. Here with the 2-minute drill, we have 4 games this upcoming weekend. Well, 4 through Thursday through Sunday, which hence why I came up with that awesome freestyle earlier. But when it comes to this, Week 6 in the CFL, the bye goes to the Hamilton Tiger Kitties, who are 0-5, and they, I wouldn't say deservingly so, but they needed this bye week this week just because of how bad they've been playing this season. Looking at the first game on Thursday, July 11th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you can see the Toronto Argonauts, who are 2-2, traveling to Montreal to take on the Alouettes, who are 5-0. This is a repeat game from this past week, and you have to look at well, no, it's not a repeat game, but it is a repeat game as far as they're playing a top-tier team because they went from the Saskatchewan Roughriders down to Alouettes. When you look at the 5-0 Alouettes taking on the 2-2 Argonauts at home, the Alouettes extend their winning streak to 6 games this season, or do you think the Argonauts are going to be a little bit upset with the way they lost this past week only by 7 points and turn it around? And we see Cameron Dukes take this Snowflake of the Week pick and potentially be a Dog of the Week.
I think the Argonauts will probably be upset. They also lost to the Alouettes when they played them at home earlier as well. Well, they're going to have to be upset because I think the Alouettes, they just have too much for the Argonauts. I don't think they have what it takes to beat them yet. The game they played in Toronto was a litmus test for me. To answer that question with a no, I don't see them doing it in Montreal for sure.
Okay, so Montreal comes out of this with their 6th straight victory, you think?
Yeah, I think the Alouettes become 6-0.
If Cameron Dukes does not turn this ball over, or at least only once in comparison to 4 times, I think they have a shot, considering how the Alouettes had to battle back this past weekend. I mean, they had to fight and call their way back in the second half, okay? If they can have a performance like they did without turning the ball over, they have a shot, but I'm going to agree with you on this and say that they do not have a shot. The Alouettes win at home for their 6th victory and remain undefeated on this season.
Who's giving them the business?
Moving on to our second game, this being on Friday, July 12th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All 4 games on TSN this week. The Calgary Stampeders, who are 2-2, travel to Winnipeg to take on the now 1-4 Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Looking at this game right here, Cole, do you think the Winnipeg Blue Bombers remain hot and get their 2nd win of the year? Or will the Stampeders be looking to get revenge from their past week's loss to the Alouettes and improve to 3-2?
Which Stampeders team is going to show up? Look, I have the similar issue with them as I do with the Redblacks. They seem to bog down when the ball gets into the red zone, or gets to basically the opponent's side of the field. I think they set up his field goals far too much, and it looks like it cost them this past week. All right. I think the Blue Bombers could actually have another win.
So is this like last week where it was like I think pick and you're kind of half-hearted into it, not 100%, but you're just saying it for the sake of a pick? Or do you really believe that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are turning it around and get their second consecutive win in this game?
With their performance this past week, I think they turned a corner. Now, will it hold? Yeah, that's the question. But I think they turned a corner. Am I 100% sold? Yeah, they're going to whoop the Stampeders' butts? No. But I think I'm sold enough on the Stampeders not being strong offensively. And this is in Winnipeg, so I think that the Blue Bombers have a shot, and I think they're going to take it, and I think they're going to win.
It's a respectable choice. If you can get some stellar play out of your special teams with your kicker, Sergio Castillo, and if you can hold the Stampeders to having lackluster production on offense, which is what they had, the only thing that really kept them in that game this past week was their rushing attack and the fact that they had 2 interceptions on defense. If they play very similarly on offense and have a lackluster running game this week, instead of what they had last week, I think there's a really good chance that we could see another upset and the Blue Bombers take their second consecutive victory on the year. I think I'm going to side with you on this one and say the Winnipeg Blue Bombers take this game right here and improve to 2-4 on the year.
Hey, who's giving them the business?
Moving on to our Saturday game, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who were 4-0 on this year, coming into week 6, traveling to British Columbia to take on the BC Lions, who are 4-1 this Saturday, July 13th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on TSN. Looking at this game right here, will the Roughriders remain undefeated, or will this stellar offense by the BC Lions, led by Vernon Adams Jr. and William Stanback, will this team continue to run amok on this league and upset the Roughriders in their quest to going undefeated?
Why not? Yes, I think the Lions will beat the Roughriders. I think they'll get their first loss of the season, and I think the Lions will do it the way they have been doing it, with an explosion of offense led by Vernon Adams Jr. Now, if this game was in, I forgot if they play in Regina, or it probably is Regina. Now, if this was in Regina, then I would probably say, yeah, I think the Lions would probably take it on their chin. But since this is in Vancouver, I'm gonna say the Lions will win it.
What?
I said I'm gonna say the Lions will win it.
What?
I said the W.
We gotta pause that.
We got to pause that. We're talking about the Saskatchewan Roughriders. However, as much for comedy and antics as I wanted to throw down on that, based on the way the BC Lions have played, I can't let my fanhood for a team compromise my actual professional pick, because I don't let that happen when we talk about the Commanders of the NFL, right? I'm pretty, I cut it.
You're objective.
I'm straight down the middle with that. All right.
You're very objective. Yeah.
So looking at that, my heart wants the Roughriders to win, and I will not be surprised if they do.
I wouldn't be either.
Because their defense would be the story of the day, and they would have to hold Vernon Adams Jr. for under 300 yards, probably under 250 yards for it to even have a chance at doing so. And William Stanback would have to have like under 50 yards running for the day. Okay. However, I don't see that being possible, because the way that this offense has played this year, being the quarterback, being the running back, Adams Jr. and Stanback, who we've talked about respectively, and their weapons that they've had in the receiving core, if they continue to produce the numbers and continue to get the first downs, and again, CFL, 3 downs to a first down, not like NFL where it's 4. It's even more challenging, and they are making it look easy. Okay, they are making it look really, really easy when it comes to the offense. And on the other side, the defense for this Roughriders has a very similar story as far as stopping the other team consistently, but not as consistent as the BC Lions have been playing on offense. So it's going to be a really good matchup of that. This is going to be the biggest test of the season for the Roughriders defense. And if they can hold Vernon Adams Jr. to less than 250 passing yards and help keep him from moving around on the ground as well, and stand back and contain those receivers, they'll have a shot. But Vernon Adams Jr., it's not going to be like the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Bo Levi Mitchell, where he's going to throw for 350 yards plus and lose. It's just not going to happen. No. And especially when you have the running back doing what he's doing, stand back, he's the reason why Vernon Adams Jr. is able to mix it up with the play action and get 350 plus yards each and every week. So looking at that right here and looking at the whole picture, I'm going to have to leave my heart's pick out of this and go with the BC Lions winning this game. And it's going to be close, but they're going to get this win, and they're going to get it at home this weekend. So being with that, that is my choice.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah.
So we'll have to see how things pan out.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
In our last game of the week, we've got Sunday, July 14th at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, the same as Saturday, 7 p.m. time. We've got the Ottawa Redblacks coming off of their very, very, very lackluster performance, who are now 2-2, traveling to Edmonton to take on the Elcamos, who are back from their bye week this past week, an 0-4 team that has been on a bye and coming back, producing a home game this week, or hosting a home game. What are your thoughts when it comes to the Dumpster Pelican Bowl of the week this Sunday?
Well, let me see. Considering that this game is straight up gonna be
trash.
Yeah, trash too. I think the Elcamos, whatever you want to call them, I think they're destined to take the and the Redblacks win a road game.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree with you. The Redblacks take the road win, and this team continues its quest to be terrible like the Hamilton Tiger Kitties. That being the Elcamos, they lose their 5th consecutive game.
Hey. Who's giving them the business?
With that being said, it's time to take this on into the post game.
As long as it's one. It's great. I love it. I hope it actually is recording.
Here with the post game, let's take it into our closing thoughts, rounding out episode 45 of Total Football Talk. We'll start this one off with Cole.
All right. It's almost here. Man, I'm loving it. 2 weeks from now, we'll start to hear teams reporting to training camp. And to me, the NFL season begins in earnest. Yes, I know the regular season still is 2 full months away. I get it. I know. And in less than 2 months, we'll see the Ravens and Chiefs get it on for real in Arrowhead to start the 2024 season. Yes, I get that. And yes, we'll be hearing all about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Yes. Unlike most people, I really could give a crap. I'm happy. And if both of them are happy, I'm happy. However, we still have 2 months until that happens, but we have only 2 weeks until we get to hear teams reporting to their training camps. And this is now the time where we get to make sure that we can manage our expectations as fans. I think that's the best way to put it. Obviously, every fan of every team hopes that this is the year that their squad makes it to the middle of February and hoists the Vince Lombardi Trophy in the air. But for the past 2 years, it's been the Chiefs. And they stand a really good chance of doing it a third straight time, which in the Super Bowl area, that has never happened. But that's in 7 months. But what's in front of us is the most enjoyable part of the year to me in terms of the excitement. Now, you have in basketball season when it gets to be about mid to late September, you have b-ball heads. They're happy that the NBA season is about to kick off in earnest in mid-October. In baseball, well, in hockey, the same time span too. In baseball, it's training. It's spring training, and pitcher and catchers report to camp in the late part of February, and they even smell the grass, and they think, I'm not talking about, but they even smell the grass, and they're happy, and they're ecstatic that the Major League Baseball season is just around the corner. Well, for me, when it gets to training camp, that basically is like pitchers and catchers reporting to a Major League Baseball fan, which I am a fan of Major League Baseball. But that to me is like pitchers and catchers reporting, because now I can salivate and I can get some of my jollies off and actually seeing NFL teams seeing how good, how bad, or how indifferent their team is according to the head coach, the fandom, and the talents themselves. I'm excited. I can't wait. The best part of being a football fan is here, and I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, it's great that the CFL is still in full swing, and we get a chance to see that before the NFL kicks off into full gear. But still, yes, the NFL, 2 weeks, training camp begins. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, brother, and definitely looking forward to what we're going to see out of the NFL this season. And, when I look at the NFL and certain things that are coming from it, I have to look at, like you said, we've got 2 weeks until we really start getting excited for the type of play that we're going to be seeing in the NFL. I have to give a shout out, to a show that I have. I'm going to have a little bit of a shorter and sweeter version with this because I've gotten a lot out today when it comes to my thoughts with the NFL and the CFL, but I have a show that is going to be returning, after a hiatus. I'm going to give a little bit of a shameless plug, I guess, as you would say, on this. That's coming back for the first time in nearly 3.5 months or so. And that is the Commanders Gridiron Report. They'll be returning next Tuesday at 11:05 a.m. Eastern time. You'll be able to see that on Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. If you're watching on Sartoba Media right now, as we are live or syndicated, you can check that out. For those of you listening on WQEE 99.1 FM, that's where you can check it out, the video version. And for those of you listening on Real Wise Radio, thank you very much for having this show first and foremost. But if you want to get a snippet of how things are going to be for the 2024 season, you can check that out next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Again, that is the Commanders Gridiron Report. Next Tuesday, we'll be returning for the first time in a few months. It's going to be the only episode in July. When it comes back in August, it will have its full weekly shows again once we start getting into preseason action and gearing up for the actual regular season. But at least to recap what we've missed out on since April, giving you the latest in news for that team that will be back next week. 45 episodes are in the books for Total Football Talk. As we round out this episode right here, Definitely make sure that Monday through Friday, whether you're watching this on Sartoba Media or Comey Media, that you're checking out the morning shift with Cole Johnson, presented by BS3 Network. You can check him out on the Roku channel, BS3 Network's YouTube, as well as at the BS3 Morning Shift Cole Johnson YouTube channel as well. Make sure you check out that show, as you saw the commercial earlier in this show. But something else you can check out tonight. If you're watching this live on Monday, Monday, July 8th, you can check out on Sartoba Media the debut of Sean Mears, professional PA announcer here in Virginia, is making his debut on the In or Out Sports Debate, In or Out Sports Debate episode 114 with myself and 12-time Vault of Fame inductee Kyle Nash. It's definitely going to be a great episode. Bing! Yes, sir. Yes, there it is. You can check him out tonight on that show, and we have a very special announcement for breaking news that I cannot announce yet, that I'm going to have to wait. Cole knows exactly what it is, but it is coming. It is going to be a good announcement. Looking forward to announcing that and getting to that. But just I look forward to that show. I look forward to this show each and every week, as it is definitely a great way to start my week in my last day off going into a work week. So as always, I love being here with Cole. Looking forward to next week and beyond as we get closer to NFL action here this season. Our favorite thing to talk about, but at least we have the CFL and the UFL that kept us occupied in the meantime.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did.
So there's only one more thing we have left, and that is for you to send us home, my man.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you, guys, for liking, sharing, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell so you can catch everything from the Sartoba Media canon on YouTube, and as well as the Comey Media YouTube channel as well. And if you want to reach out to us, all you have to do is to hit the bevy of channels that my brother Drew has.
Go to work.
Search up _ media on Instagram and X, the _ Sartoba on TikTok, and of course Sartoba Media on YouTube. And if you want to reach me, just go to flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. That is flowcode.com/page/host Cole Johnson. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say in parting, as we always do, in life, just like a tackle, keep your head up. And always remember, you got to play until the whistle blows.
And as always, stay safe out here in these streets. See ya.